While performing a hypothesis test, we have to identify two contradictory hypotheses. One of them will come directly from the claim in the hypothesis. The other one we will pick so that it contradicts the claim from the original statement. The null hypothesis is the hypothesis that claims the population parameter is equal to some claimed value. So any null hypothesis will have to include an equal sign, a greater than or equal to sign, or a less than or equal to sign. Now in most scientific journals, they will only use an equal sign, but for building up our statistics muscles, we're going to use all three so that we can see the contradictions between the two hypotheses. So if we have a null hypothesis that includes an equality statement, then the alternative hypothesis would include a not equal to statement. If we have a null hypothesis that includes a greater than or equal to statement, then the alternative hypothesis would have to use the less than strict inequality. And last, of course, if the null hypothesis includes a less than or equal to symbol, the null has to be contradicted by the alternative, so the alternative hypothesis would use a greater than strict inequality symbol. Let's try a couple of examples. If we're told fewer than 10% of homes have only a landline telephone and no wireless phone, we have to decide what population parameter the claim is talking about and what value is it being compared to. We're talking about all homes, and we're talking about a percentage of the population of homes. That sounds an awful like a population proportion. And we're claiming that the population proportion is smaller than 10%. So our original claim for this first statement is that the population proportion P is less than 0.10. Notice that the phrase fewer than is not including equal to. So this original claim is actually our alternative hypothesis because it does not include any equality. Therefore, the contradictory hypothesis is the null hypothesis. And if we look at the little table on the screen, the less than inequality is contradicted by the greater than or equal to inequality. So our null hypothesis is still talking about the population proportion P. It's still comparing it to the 10%, but this time the inequality symbol gets flipped and we include the equality portion. So our null hypothesis is that the population proportion is greater than or equal to 10%. Let's take a look at the next one. Most adults know that a light year is a measure of distance. Now in this statement, we're making a claim again about a portion of the population. In this case, the population is all adults, and the claim is that most of them know that a light year is a measure of distance. Most could be a lot of different numbers, but it absolutely has to be more than half, not equal to half. So our original claim is that the proportion of adults that know that a light year is a measure of distance is greater than 1/2. And this does not include equality, so we know that's our alternative hypothesis. Therefore, our null hypothesis is going to be that the population proportion is less than or equal to 1/2. Last one, the mean systolic blood pressure of a healthy adult is less than 123, and I don't know what mmHg means, so we're going to ignore that part. We're making a claim here about healthy adults and their blood pressure. And here we're talking about the mean systolic blood pressure. That's an average. This is a population mean, so we're talking about the parameter mu, and we're comparing it to the value 123. We're saying that the population mean is less than 123, not including equal to 123. Therefore, again, this is our alternative hypothesis, which would mean our null hypothesis would have to contradict that statement, saying that the mean has to be greater than or equal to 123. Now in these three examples, the alternative hypothesis is the original claim, and that's pretty common because we want to decide if we have evidence to support or if we don't have evidence to support our original claim. And in a hypothesis test, you can only reject or fail to reject the null hypothesis. So if your original claim is a null hypothesis, you're either rejecting or failing to reject your original claim rather than determining if you have support for your original claim. So most often you'll find that the alternative hypothesis is the original claim rather than the null hypothesis being the original claim.